Hey y'all, so today's video is going to be on Requests and BeautifulSoup 4. We're not going to go into any details. I'm just going to show you the basics of Request and the basics of BeautifulSoup 4 just to get your foot into the door of web scraping. So to start off, obviously make sure that you have VS Code. If you want, you can use VS Code. Make sure you have VS Code installed. That's what I'm going to be using. And make sure you have Python installed. I'll put the links for those downloads in the description. The website we're going to be scraping today is called scrapethesite.com/pages/simple. So this is one of the more simpler examples of the web scraping. So it's just the countries of the world, just all in a list with some information about them, like capital, population, and the area in kilometers squared. First things first, big disclaimer, make sure that you only scrape websites that you are allowed to scrape. It's really important. Only scrape with consent from the website owner or administrator. Alright, so let's begin. Go ahead and head to any directory you're choosing. I'm going to do my documents and just create a new folder. I'm going to call this scraper. Alright, go into that folder, right click anywhere, press show more options, press open with code. If you don't have this option, then when installing VS Code, you probably didn't choose the add to path or show open with code option when installing. If you don't, that's okay. There's another way. You can just go ahead and open up VS Code, go to File, Open Folder, and just navigate there and press Select Folder, and that should open it right back up. Alright. So moving on, first things first, we're going to go ahead and make our Python file. I'm going to call this main.py. Just because that's just conventional to name it main.py. Just gonna get rid of this. I don't know why that's there. A couple things we need to do first. The request library and the BeautifulSoup 4 library are not pre-installed with Windows, or sorry, with Python. So we're gonna head to our terminal and we're just going to do python-m pip install and requests. And then we're also going to install BS4 for BeautifulSoup 4. I already have those done, so it's going to show as requirements already satisfied. But for you, it might show as it's going. Just let it do its thing. It's going to install a bunch of dependencies that it needs as well. And then once that's done, you should just be back at this screen with the blinking cursor. We can just type in exit, and that'll close out our terminal. Alright, so next up, we're going to start with just a basic example of how to use the get method on the request module or request library. If that sounds kind of confusing, don't worry, I'll go ahead and break it down for you. So to start off, we're going to head to just example.com. This is just an example domain that we're just going to use just for our example real quick. So if you go to any website and press Control U on your keyboard, or you right click and press View Page Source, it's going to show you the source of the page, right? So here you can see it's very basic. It's just the declaration with the title right here, just some basic information about it, some styling to make it look nice, and then just a H1 element with a paragraph element and an anchor element to have a link to learn more, and that's it, right? So it's a very, very basic bare bones website, and that is literally it. It's just three elements total. So let's go ahead and try to just get data from this website. So to do that, we're going to import requests, and that's a long name, so I'm just going to do as req. So this as keyword when importing stuff basically just lets you have it as an alias. So instead of having to type request every time, you can just type in req. Alright, so next up, we are going to grab our base URL. So I'm going to call this base. And the reason it's called base and not just URL is, like, for example, let's say you were going to a website like google.com. Or if you were contacting an API, right? So for google.com, there is a search. How Google search works is you just go to google.com/search and then $Q equals. So the query equals, and you just type in whatever you want. So like I can type in hello world, and the browser will automatically interpret this space into the Unicode for that, so %20. When I press enter, you can see it puts that %20 there, and it searches for what I put into there, right? So that's how Google's search works. So the reason it's called a base is because let's say you wanted to have a, let's say a search is equal to hello world. There you go. And then your URL, your final URL will be something like base, or we can make these a formatted string, base, so whatever base is, and then it would be $q equals search, or query, whatever you want to call it. Your final URL would look something like this: https google.com/search $q equals hello world, right? So that's why it's called a base, because you build upon it. For our purposes, just for this example one, we're not really going to build upon it, but still it's good practice to just call it a base, right? So I'm just going to make this example.com. Alright, now we're going to send a get request, basically get the data on the website. How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to create a variable called response. We're going to set it to the value of request.getBase. Basically saying use our request module that we made up here, give it an alias of req, request.get the base. Pretty easy, just whatever URL you put. Now, once we get some data, this is gonna, let's just print out response and see what happens. So we print out our response. We can see that it gives us response 200. So this 200 right here, this means a status code of 200. Right here on the Mozilla MDN docs, you can see there's a bunch of different status codes. So if you go to successful responses right here, 200 just means okay. So if you see a 200, know that whatever you tried to do happened. Alright, so since we have a 200, now let's try to do something. So just as a failsafe, we're going to do if response.status code is 200, then we're going to just print okay. If the status code is not 200, you're going to print formatted string of error and then send the response.status code. Alright, so this should just print OK to the screen. And there you go, boom. It printed OK. Now let's try and get the text of what's in our response, right? So instead of printing OK, let's print what we get. So res.text. So our response, let's get the text in it. So let's run this real quick. Boom, so we get that HTML code we saw earlier. So let's head back over to our example domain, press Ctrl U. This HTML code matches the HTML code we got from here. We already did one step of web scraping. We got the data from the website. Now we're going to use BeautifulSoup to try and make sense of that data. So let's head back over here. Let's get rid of everything. Actually, let's just change this domain to our domain. So it's going to be www.scrapethissite.com/pages/simple. Alright, just to make sure this works, hold Control, click on it. Okay, perfect. So it's the correct website. So let's head back over here to our website, and we can see here that our goal right now is to just get the names of all the countries on this list and print them out to the console. So to do that, let's go ahead and inspect this page and see how it's designed. So right click on any of the countries and just press inspect. What that's going to do is going to bring up the Chrome developer tools. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Make this a little bit smaller. So we can see here, this is the general setup of the page. So there's a larger section with the ID of countries. And inside there's a container which has all of what I'm assuming is the countries, and then has a bunch of rows, and each row has a different amount of countries. So we can see in here there is a bunch of divs, the class of row, and then in a row there's another div. There's 3 other divs with the class of call-md-4 and then country. And then there's an h3 with the class of country name, an I element with the class of flag icon AD, which it doesn't look like it's working. Maybe it's messed up, maybe it's just for mobile or something like that. And then the country's name. So this actually tells us a lot on how we're going to scrape our website. So to do this, what we're going to do is we're going to take the ID of a parent element, so this section, so the ID of countries. We're going to look in here, we're going to find an h3 with the class of country name. Then we're just going to look at the content of the h3 and just find the name. We're going to add that to a list and print that out. So let's see how we're going to do that. Head back over to VS Code. Since you have our website down, first things first, let's see if we even get the code. Let's see if we can even get the HTML. So let's run this real quick. Alright, boom. So we're getting a lot of HTML. So that seems like it's working. Let's go ahead and just clear the console by typing CLS just so it's not cluttered. Alright. Next up, we're going to do something with the data that we got. So first up, we're going to head up over here. We're going to do import BS4. From BS4 import BeautifulSoup. Alright. Now what we're going to do is we're going to head on down here to right after we get our request. And we're going to create a variable called BS for BeautifulSoup. And we're going to make a new BeautifulSoup. Alright, so this is basically the class that is scraping the website. It's the tool that we're using. So into it, we're going to pass in our first variable. So we see over here, first is the markup. So basically just all the data that we got. So we can do res.content. That's going to get all the content from the response. And then what are we going to use? What features are we going to use? We're going to use the html.parser. Alright, so that's it for the BeautifulSoup setup. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and look through the website and find the element with the ID of countries from earlier. So this higher section element. So we're going to go here and we're going to do results is equal to BeautifulSoup.find an element with the ID of countries. Alright, so let's go ahead and print out results and see what this looks like. Alright, so it found the section element. You can see because it ends with the section element, and if you just scroll up here quite a bit, you can see it also, actually the console doesn't even go that far. That's how much it printed out. But you would be able to tell that it also starts with a section element. Let's go and clear out the screen. Now that we know that it's getting the correct section element with all of our countries in it, let's get those countries. So let's create a variable called countries, and we're going to use the results. We're going to find all instances of an h3 that has the class of country name. Now there's an issue with this line of code that we have over here. You can see VS Code's already starting to pick it up. So the name class is reserved by Python. Class is used to create a new class. So to bypass this, what BeautifulSoup does is it puts an underscore after class. So you still know that you're looking for the class, but since class is a reserved word, it just puts an underscore afterwards. Alright, so let's go ahead and print out countries and see what response we get. This time I'm going to use the actual terminal, so if it's a long response, it won't get cut off by VS Code. I'm going to cd into our documents, and we're going to cd into scraper. Alright, now we're going to do Python, and we're going to run main.py. Alright, so there's a lot going on here. You can see it is actually getting the I element for the country's flag, the country's name, the beginning of the h3 element, and the end of the h3 element. And they're all put into a giant list as denoted by this bracket, and all the up here by this bracket. So that's perfect. That's exactly what we need. Now all we need to do is just format this text, format this response, so that we just get the country's name. And this is actually much easier than you might think. All we have to do is create a list with country names. I'm just going to make an empty list for now. Now we're going to do for country in countries. So loop through every country's raw data in this country's list that we created earlier. Its clean name is going to be country dot get text. So that get text basically just gets all this plain text that's inside of this element. And then we're going to do strip equals true. So strip just removes all the white space. Next up, what we're going to do is we're going to take our country names and we are just going to append the clean name. So that's just going to add our clean name to the country, to the list of country names. So everything we just did here, these 3 lines of code, can be condensed into, believe it or not, 1 line of code. And that's through something called list comprehension in Python. So what we're going to do is, this may seem a little bit complicated, but I'll explain it real quick. So we're going to do country.getText strip equals true for country in countries. Basically says that loop through each country in the countries list and append and add to this list for each of those the clean version of the country's name. So we can get rid of this. I'm not going to get rid of it, just so if you want, I'm just going to comment it out. And now what we can do is we can just go ahead and print out all these country names. So we'll do for name in country names, print name. Alright, so boom, let's head back over to our terminal, clear this out, and see what happens. There you go, you did it. That is the basics of web scraping. We got every country on that list as just their names in the same order that was on that list. Look at that. And we can head back over here. You can see it goes Andorra, United Arab Emirates, Afghanistan, Antigua, and Barbuda. So let's see if that's that order that we have. Andorra, United Arab Emirates, Afghanistan, Antigua, and Barbuda. Perfect. So the order is the same. We got the same data from the website. Now there's so much more you could do with this. For that, I recommend you definitely check out the docs for for BeautifulSoup and for the request library. If you want, put a comment down below if you want more videos about web scraping. I plan to do more Python videos and some JavaScript videos as well. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and just put a comment down below. And besides that, yeah, thank y'all for watching. See you in the next video.